my name is Deanna and I'm the Cosmic Engineer. I am starting to share information with everybody that is interested on how to create your platforms, your accounts on different sites that are available. Maybe social media sites is a good way to phrase it, such as Podbean here, which I'm starting here with. So the first thing to do is go to podbean.com, obviously, and then just to give you an idea, let's go to the pricing section. So it looks like their basic free plan is actually quite good, and that might be a great place to start depending on what your goals are. If you see as we go down, it shows you the options that are available. I doubt very much that anybody's going to jump into the business plan at this point if you're just learning. So this, you either can do a 0 or a 9. I'm pretty sure even $20, $29 a month is not something that people are going to jump into at the very beginning. This shows you what you have available in these two first columns. And so what you would get with the $9 is basically you get more uploads. You don't have any restrictions. And then you're getting access to some themes that they've provided, it looks like more in-depth stats. You can do some more custom design stuff. You wouldn't really get a lot of options for designs in the free version. Mapping your own domain, that's quite nice if you have it. So, if you've bought the domain, mypodcast.com, you can set it so that when somebody types in mypodcast.com, it would come right here if that's what you're interested in. It's not a requirement at all, but it is something that's kind of fun for people sometimes. And if you're really wanting to create a brand, then that might be useful, but it's not required to get started. And it looks here like they're giving you more than one channel under your umbrella probably here. You can also set up ads to get some revenue if you want to have ads in your podcast. You don't have to, obviously, but you can. Now, if you're interested in getting payments from a sort of a membership type program, they call it a Patreon program. It's not Patreon. It is a patron, so a subscriber, and they would subscribe to get your content. So you would have to go to the next level up. You couldn't do that with one of the first two. So you need at least the $29 option for that. And then this here is all business stuff that you'd need to be paying this $99 a month plan. So I would suggest that we're going to get started with this. So you can connect with one of these options here, depending on what your comfort level is. They just have a backend program they call SSO, which is single sign-on. And so you can just, if you have your credentials for either Facebook, Google, or Apple that are already stored in your computer, if it's easier for you to use that, you go right ahead and do that. I am just doing this here. So for me, the option of making my own link is that I can have a different password. So that way, sometimes it's handy to have the single sign-on, and sometimes it's not, because if you forget, you have to go through and figure out what you've done. So as far as passwords, but in this case, I want to do a separate password from my Google account. So you click that robot, not a robot, and then you create your account. You can either save that or not in your browser. So I don't have an existing podcast to import, but this would be an interesting feature to explore. But for now, we're going to go to create a new podcast. And now it's going to let you know that you need to verify your email. So what you need to do is go to the email that you use to sign in and click the verification option that's there. So I'm going to go do that right now. So once you've signed in to the email that you received, when you click the verify option, confirm now, then you will get this option here to say that you're not a robot, and then you verify. And at this point, you don't need these other tabs that are up here. So I like to close them out, but you don't have to. Okay, so go to setup and call this whatever you would like to call it. Okay, and now you can just leave what's there or change it. Category, this is obviously they're going to show you what are required with the little red star. And I'm going to just say education courses. I've already done this image to have as like the logo, I guess is the best way to think of that. Yeah, podcast logo. So here they give you some information. So in this case, they provide you with some just standard pictures, so you have a picture, because they all want a picture. That's all part of these different platforms that will get uploaded from Podbean to like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, that kind of thing. They're giving you the specs here. And what I have done with mine, I'll just select it and then you can see here that you can play around with that. Mine looks just fine, so I'll leave it. We can always go ahead and change this. This would give you, whether it's going to be on the right side. You can see over here where it moved. This is our podcast name. So you can center that. You can put on the left or the right. You can also change it and put it on the bottom or in the middle, which you wouldn't want to do if you have the picture right in the middle. And you can change the font size. So if you wanted to make it a little bit bigger. See how that got bigger, and the font type. Okay, and then you hit update. And then you're going to see here where this picture is going to change to the one that you loaded. So here is if you have your domain, you're able to change this. But we're on the free version right now, so we're going to do what we can in there. So put your time zone. I'm in Pacific. And you can change this if you want to. Most is going to be new to old, right? But if you wanted to change that for any reason, you could. All right, so that shows you that you can't put a link in unless you upgrade to the pay version. Comments, you're going to also need this. And you need, if you want to take Podbean off, you have to upgrade. So we will just update. Oh, apparently they didn't like this. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to publish. So at this point, when you're clicking here, you're going to be asked to upload the file that you would like. And here's the recording that I did, but you can always take a pause from this if you'd like and go back and record something and then upload it. So I will do another video that will describe how you can make the file that you're going to upload a little bit more professional. You can do what they call an intro and an outro, and you can also do a little bit of engineering. I'm no expert in that whatsoever, but I know enough to be able to kind of trim things out of it, and especially if there's some sounds that you're able to trim out, that's always nice to make it a little bit more smooth. Then you can level it so that it's a little nicer sounding. And then I put it through into GarageBand, and I will put through the intro and then the actual podcast and then the outro. And then you can export that to be one whole file. So that's a way to make it be a lot more polished. You know, if you can totally just put up a file. There's no need to do that, but so I will be doing it in a separate video. So in this case, then I'm just going to give some kind of thing here. You can or can't, you can put whatever you want in here. This is a good place that you could put in not only a description of what you're going to talk about, but you could put your links in here as well. I don't think you necessarily need to complete this. So here you could put in, you know, a little bit of a description about what it is that you're talking about in this episode. And then underneath it, you can talk about, you know, where to find you, like if you have a website, that kind of thing. Any of those details that you would like to put, you could put those underneath. And if you end up using, say, for example, for your intro and outro, if you use a music track, if the music track is something that you purchased, then you want to make sure you've got the credits listed in this section as well, so that you're covering yourself from a perspective of, you know, stealing somebody's work. So at this point, we're going to say publish now, but you can save it as a draft and come back later. So now distribute is the next option. So here's where you can put in your details to get yourself put on some of the top ones. Apple is always very important. Spotify is pretty high up there. So far, my experience with Google Podcasts, they're quite a bit slower to pick things up. Apple Podcasts, once you get connected with them and they've approved you, then they will do it really fast the minute that you release a new episode. I found that there's a huge delay with Google. Sometimes it takes days, which is a bit bizarre. But I've never, I wasn't using before Podbean, so I can't say the speed on this one, but I'm assuming because we're on that app that it's going to be up pretty quick. Spotify is very quick as well. So it's up to you. I have not gone through all of these and don't know every single way to hook up all of these options here, but I will go through the process for Apple. There's a nice tutorial here that you can do. It's not super hard. The biggest thing that we've already published an episode. Let's see what the supported file format is. This is, okay, so Apple will take MP3, MP4, etc. So we're good on that, and submit to Apple Podcasts. So this is something you need to do at the beginning one time, because they need to know what you want to do and if they're going to approve you. And the way to do that is to do it through the Apple Podcast Connect. So whatever it is that your email is, I'll just put this one in. question. Okay, so here it's showing you that you can put what you would like as your name. And you say you've agreed. So here is basically where you're just going to have to wait for them. And you would get an email from them. So you will get an URL in this email, and that's where you're going to put in the code here and then save it. And once that's done, every single time that you upload a podcast, it's going to appear on Apple Podcasts. Okay, so here we go. It's already sorted out here for Podbean, which makes sense, right? Okay, so in Google, this is the process. We'll just go through this process here. You're going to sign in here with this special code. This is you may see this in other areas that, in order to share your podcast information on some other platforms. They are going to want the RSS feed, and that is this particular address that I've just pasted here. Apple is different. Oh, interesting. So key thing that I wasn't shown beforehand is that you need to make sure that you have this email set in, and Apple Podcast is the top one. So it's always going to be what you fill in, whatever Apple wants, everybody else submits to. So before we can send to Google, we are going to go to settings feed and make sure that your contact email is here, because the feed won't be accepted by Google, which is the error we were seeing before. Now we'll go back here. Whoops, I want to do this. And you copy the feed and submit to Google. I did this already, so it should be fine. Okay, so here we go. Confirm your selection. Is this what you want? And then you say next step. Click submit. There you go. Ownership is verified. So basically, since it was just created, it's going to take a bit. And the more you do, the more you're uploading, the faster that these will take it. I think it took a few days for when I did a client a few months ago, it took a few days to get Apple and up and running. And then every new one was done immediately. Like I would schedule the podcast and then they would go out in as soon as they got released from, I was doing it from SoundCloud. Once they got released there, they were almost automatically showing on Apple, and then they fell through the chain to the other ones. Let's go back here and okay, so you need to have, so what it looks like here is that with the free version, you can get Apple, Google, and Podbean. The rest of them will probably be paid. So you can connect any of your other social media stuff to here, and that would allow you to share. And here's how we would put in, if you have a website that you want to be putting in your feed to show that you have, all these different podcasts, you can use this code to put that in there. And that's it. So hopefully this was helpful, and I apologize for the little bit of a problem there, figuring that Google thing out. And I will do another one shortly to go into a bit more detail on these.